Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr, and to celebrate the release of Dragon Quest Builders 2 on Xbox Game Pass, welcome to my first impressions / review on the game. Now first things first, a massive thank you goes out to Square Enix for sponsoring this video, providing me a copy with a copy of the game, so that I can bring this review to all you lovely people. And if you would like to know more information about Dragon Quest Builders 2, particularly on Xbox Game Pass, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below. Now, Dragon Quest Builders 2 was actually initially released back in 2019, and it was released on PS4 and Switch, but now it's available to Xbox owners for the very first time. And if you have Xbox Game Pass, well, you actually already have access to the game. So I wanted to take a dive into Dragon Quest Builders 2 and see what makes it tick, and ultimately whether it's worth a download into your library. Now, for those of you who haven't seen Dragon Quest Builders 2 before, whether it be on one of the other consoles, PC, or now Xbox, Dragon Quest Builders 2 is a blend of the action RPG and sandbox creative genres, mixing the ability to gather materials, acquire recipes for new items, weapons, etc., build items, build rooms up, and eventually massive structures like magical trees and massive castles, all sorts of things, as well as exploring, fighting, and completing numerous quests, all different types, in the aid of helping citizens of various islands that are downtrodden, down on their luck, thanks to the menaces of the children of Hargon and the monsters that inhabit them, and eventually building up your very own kingdom in the Isle of Awakening and unraveling the mysteries of the fabled Lord of Destruction. Now, I've played with a bit of Dragon Quest Builders 2 myself in the past, back on the PS4, but with this version I've spent about 12 to 15 hours, and let me tell you, there is a lot of content to be had here. We're talking 50 hours plus, and that's just on the story without even delving into the creative aspects of the game. Now, as the story goes, the story's relatively, simple and generic as far as JRPGs go, with your character being trapped at the beginning by the children of Hargon, which are the monsters in the game, and builders, which you happen to be one of, or anyone that can make, well, anything, are considered taboo, and talked about as if they came from a dirty magazine, which, given Dragon Quest and its very well-known kind of wink-wink, nudge-nudge humour, is, it's simple, but it's familiar, and it's welcome to all fans of the franchise, and it ends up culminating into a really lovely story about the ideas of creation and destruction, and the bond that links them. And the characters, by and large, are actually very, very endearing, with a particular mention to Malroth, who is a character you come across very, very early in the game and sticks with you for a long time. And for a violent thug, he's actually really likeable and well-developed, and he has a lot of twists and turns on offer. And he's a character that I definitely wanted to give a quick mention to. And every time you level up, he levels up with you, and you still have experience gauges, you still gain new abilities as you level up, the ability to craft new weapons, armor, etc. But honestly, the most rewarding thing about clearing any of the combat sequences or leveling up, etc., is watching your character and Malroth do that little high five every time they do anything together. It's actually adorable. Now, there's a very, very obvious comparison point between Dragon Quest Builders 2 and contemporaries like it, with a particular mention to a particular worldwide phenomenon. But obviously, the crafting and building aspects of that are drawn from those kinds of games in the past, but they have a unique sensibility of themselves. And actually, there's a slightly different connection that I would draw between Dragon Quest Builders 2 and other games, because the constant progression, the fact that you kind of merge between the action RPG elements and the building aspects of things, you're constantly progressing, learning new recipes, the landscape is constantly evolving, but it always has a goal in mind. Now, I don't know about everybody, but I'm not the sort of player that enjoys a game where you're kind of plonked into the middle of the world and told go. I like having a sense of direction with where I'm going, and I like having a goal in mind, whether it be one that I've set myself or one that's set for me by the cast of the game. And Dragon Quest Builders 2 actually accomplishes that really well by just kind of leading you on the beaten path for a while and then letting you go, now you go do your thing. So actually, the connection that I would draw here is if you've ever played a game called Dark Cloud on the PS2, or even ActRaiser back on the Super Nintendo, there's a connection between this game and those, and there's actually a very strong vibe that I got when I was young playing those games, and I really loved the go out and explore, fight the monsters, come back and build your town up to the specification of the citizens within it. And it feels really good. It feels good constantly throughout. And like I said, there is obviously a connection to the likes of Minecraft, etc. But Dragon Quest Builders 2 maintains its presence as a JRPG just as much as it does a creative sandbox. One thing I will say, however, is that for people who like the creative modes of games like that in the past, in order to play the game as creatively as those coming from those kinds of games would like, one does have to go through the main game first in order to unlock recipes, blueprints for rooms, which is also another nice aspect. Like, you obtain blueprints for rooms, and as you build them, citizens will act within the parameters of the rooms that you set. So for example, if you set up a kitchen, one of the citizens will take materials that you've made and cook for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. There's a lot of micromanagement, but it's all done very well. But in order to get to that creative mode aspect of things, you do have to go through the majority of the game first in order to get as many of the materials as possible. But honestly, the main game is rewarding enough that that process never feels like a slog. While there's no creative mode as such, I never found that I was going, God, I wish there was one. As for sound design and visuals, sound design with Dragon Quest is always on point. With old school sound effects that you'd recognise. I mean, my first Dragon Quest game was Dragon Quest Monsters back on the Game Boy, and I still recognise some of the noises that come out of Dragon Quest Builders from that, and that was many, many years ago, and they still use some of the same ones now, and it feels familiar, and it feels lovely. And obviously the soundtrack is of special mention as well, composed by Dragon Quest's very own Koichi Sugiyama, who has been composing music for that series for eons, and it's still wonderful here. And with the visuals, given the block building nature of the game, you would expect it to be extremely simplistic, and in some places it is, but it's done in a very nice way. And there's a particular mention I wanted to give to the lighting and the draw distances, because in a game like this that's all about exploration, you want to be able to see where you're going, and I was very impressed with how far I was able to see into the distance, and I was impressed especially when using certain aspects of the game mechanics like the gliding and stuff like that you get relatively early on in the game. I just felt that the lighting was very strong. The character models and such are quite simplistic, but it all aids into the style of the game. If you're wanting a game that's going to push your PC to the limit, or your Xbox Series X or anything like that, this is not going to be the game for you. And I did also notice that while I was on PC, there aren't a huge number of options for sort of changing the graphics up or anything like that. So if that's the sort of thing you enjoy toying with, there's not going to be an awful lot of that here for you. But the visuals here are functional and stylistic, and it plays well to its strengths. As I said earlier, there's a lot of features about creativity within Dragon Quest Builders 2 that make it so that the amount of content in the game is staggering. Like I said, I spent like maybe 12 to 15 hours playing this version of the game, and I've played it previously, but I feel within those 15 hours I have barely scratched the surface of the amount of content that's on offer here, and that's completely disregarding the creative aspect of the game, which many players have already taken advantage of, because the ability to explore other players' islands and creations is still present in this version, and brings along all of the content, including DLC from the previous versions of the game. Even though you do have to get quite far into the story to unlock all of that stuff, then you can still have access and go and explore other people's islands, other people's creations at your leisure, so that you're able to get inspiration for your own. And I'm actually going to be making a second video on this, because I want to showcase some of the wonderful things that I've seen, like exploring other people's islands as well. And not only that, but 4-player multiplayer is also available here as well, meaning that while you're on your Isle of Awakening and you want to build your own sort of utopia, you can go crazy with your creative flow with friends, and you can let other people join in and make your vision a reality. Now, with the game being available on Xbox Game Pass, it does mean that so many more people have access to this game than they would have had originally. Though I will also say that even though it is on Xbox Game Pass, it's not currently available on Xbox Game Pass Cloud, meaning if you're wanting to carry Dragon Quest Builders 2 along with you on a mobile device or anything like that, then unfortunately that's not an option for you at this moment in time. Now, if I were to give you guys a couple of tips to start the game with, should you decide to give it a go, I would suggest fighting as many enemies as you can, and there's a lot of enemies in this game, and fans of Dragon Quest will recognise instantly practically every single one of them, myself included. I still find it hard to beat up slimes because they're just so damn adorable. But as you come across them, beat as many of them up as you can because you'll get materials from them, and more importantly, you'll get XP. And XP is going to be important in this game because not only do your stats and your health increase by leveling up, but you're also going to obtain recipes pertaining to both yours and your partner's gear, and as it's tied to your level. I would do anything that your citizens ask of you in order to build up gratitude, which is little heart tokens that you get from doing so, in order to basically progress the game. The more gratitude you get from your citizens, the quicker your base will level up, and then there will be points in the game where you'll have to fight off enemies in order to save your town or your base, and therefore having stronger citizens is going to help you with that. And lastly, if you get a chance, I would seek out this fellow that you can see in the screen, or in the gameplay footage that you can see right now, as soon as you feel strong enough to take them on and obtain the poison needle recipe from them, because trust me, you will thank me for that later. All in all, I think Dragon Quest Builders 2 is, as with many Dragon Quest titles, an absolute pleasure to play, no matter what platform you're playing it on. It's got a sprawling amount of content, adorable characters far and wide, and a consistent progression level that makes your building and creation feel purposeful, while still giving you the freedom to make the game feel like it's still yours. To call this game a simple, sandbox clone with a Dragon Quest appearance would be an absolute disservice to the amount of enjoyment that this game can provide to literally anyone. People of all ages can enjoy this game. And now that the game's on Xbox Game Pass as well, I think anyone with an Xbox who'd ever played either a sandbox game or a JRPG, for that matter, they would be remiss to not at least give this game a go. So that's going to be all from today's video on Dragon Quest Builders 2. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed playing the game. As I said earlier, do stay tuned for another video on this game where we'll be exploring some of the content made by other players, so that should you decide to give the game a go, you might find some inspiration for your own builds, or honestly, I might find some inspiration from islands so that I can then bring it over to my own game and build something majestic of my own. Or if you already own the game, perhaps leave a comment down below with your island ID, and perhaps yours will be the next island that we drop by at. Once again, a massive thank you goes out to Square Enix for sponsoring this video and for providing me with a copy of the game so that I can bring this review to you all. And if you would like more information on the game, be sure to check out the links in the description box below. Now don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications of any future videos I might be making. And I shall leave you all now with just a little bit of my own gameplay footage for Dragon Quest Builders 2 so that you can see a bit more from it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Take care! Oh.